All right, here we are again, Facebook Live. Welcome. Sorry, I just got a phone call at the same time as I got on here. So this is our Christian Minson coming to you live from Rythmia. Sunny, it's cloudy-ish today. Clouds are always a little nice, keeps things a little cooler around here. Never have you ever have to worry about putting on a jacket or anything like that, it seems like. Though I was just in the big city, San Jose, the Central Valley of Costa Rica, and it's considerably cooler there, like in the 70s, let's say. That's maybe 60s at night. Ideal weather in my opinion, but I had a good time. Welcome here. Debbie Garcia just joined. We got 10, 11 people. Hey there, Debbie. So just say hi as you're joining on. I always like to just start a little bit by welcoming the people who are here and just giving enough people a chance to get on live. Hey, Keith, welcome. Let me know where you're from too so I can acknowledge that. Sean, hey there, Sean. And Andy, hey Andy, hey Rhonda. Wow, excellent. Lots of people. Andre, hey, welcome, welcome. So you know, if you're joining in on this recording afterwards, I always just take a bit of time to get people on. And so if you want to skip forward, you can usually skip to about 3 minutes, 4 minutes, usually about 4 or 5 minutes in. And you can start the content there. So today I'm here talking about monastic life, where I was a monk, and I'll get into that in just a little bit. But until then, just say hi, tell me where you're from. Randy, hi. Lanny joined, Glenn joined, hey Glenn. Joanne joined, Abimanu. Is that how we'd say it? Join, excellent. Hello, hello. 20 people. We got going on the 3-minute mark here. So come on, let's move those numbers up. People join on. Usually like to go from about anywhere from 25 to 50 people to start off with. So we'll see what we get today here. We did pass the 25 and then it went down. Now it's going back up. All right. Oh, lots of people. Hello from India. Abhimanyu is from India. Beautiful. From LA, Randy. Colombia, Canada, Andre. Sherry just joined. Lonnie is from Ottawa. Beautiful. Used to visit there all the time. Glenn J. Adams. Samara. Very close by, right? When you coming by again there, Glenn? Deborah, hey, from Colorado, and looks like I'm coming to Colorado. I'm looking at whatever that weekend is after the first weekend. So I think it's not the 6th, but like the 13th or something like that. So if you're keep an eye out, I'll do a breath workshop in Colorado then. Tom and Tina joined, beautiful. Teddy, Chair, Andy from Hawaii, and good. So we're around the 4-minute mark. I'm going to get started. So officially welcome everybody. I'm R. Christian Minson, your catalyst for awakening and evolution. I'm the director of the breathwork program here at Rythmia Life Advancement Center in sunny and warm Guanacaste, Costa Rica, where miracles happen on a daily basis. I'm also a certified breath facilitator, senior trainer with the Transformational Breath Foundation for the last 12 years, a speaker and author, and most appropriately for today, a former monk. Yes, I used to live the monastic life, a lifestyle of discipline and rigor, a lot of meditation and service for 10 years. 10 years I lived that life. And so before we get into that, I just want to mention that here at Rythmia, like I said, I'm the breathwork director, and we have on a regular basis breathwork retreats where all of the medicine that's done is breath medicine or oxygen or pranic medicine, if you will, meaning we don't do any of the plant medicine during the breathwork weeks. The next breathwork week is December 2nd through 9th, the December 2nd through 9th week. So if you are interested in coming to Rythmia, getting your miracle without having to deal with the plant medicine, come to the breathwork week, December 2nd through 9th. So with that, Andy says, aloha from Maui, namaste from India. All right, we have a couple from India. I love it. And Jenny Greer just joined. So what we're talking about today is my lifestyle as a monk. This is a topic that I do once every 2 months or so. It seems like a topic that people continuously request. It, in some ways, I think it's just a fun topic, an interesting topic, but I ponder why this topic. But, in my life, when people realize that I've become a monk or that I was a monk, I get three basic questions. Why'd you go in? Why'd you come out? And you mean you weren't allowed to socialize with women? So all three of those are pretty much consistently the top three questions I get in this life. And so today I've talked on this topic in the past, just monastic life in general. I talked about going in. Today really is the focus on why I left, and more importantly than why I left is probably the lessons learned from that lifestyle, transitioning from that one very disciplined lifestyle to another, back in the world where all of us live, and how can I apply and how can you apply these lessons in your life? I think this is an interesting topic to people because, one, it's kind of exotic and romantic. I know a lot of people fantasize about getting away from it all, running away to the hills, living a simple life, not having to deal with your bills and your family and the crazy neighbor and all that kind of stuff. And that's usually short-lived because, the next day you wake up and got to go to work, got to pay the bills. But there's this part in us. How can we escape, so to speak, from our day-to-day trials? And maybe escape's not the best word, but that's how we, that's often what we're hoping for. What I think on a deeper level, when people hear about me having become a monk and all that, what it represents for people is going for your dreams, really in a very high profile way. To become a monk is really an extreme on one level decision, right? It's extreme in the sense that it's a departure from the norms of society. There's all of these norms, this big river of life flowing downstream, and I've decided to get off that river and go down one of these tributaries. And everybody has a dream inside them, whether they're conscious of that dream or not. Everybody has desires to do something a little different, unless, of course, you're fulfilling your dream and you're realizing your dream, then you're on task. But it's like this idea that, wow, he actually went for it. He went for his dream, and then how did he deal with all the consequences? Any decision that we make, even if it's a decision for our highest good, requires sacrifices. It requires us to let go of certain things, and as we embrace other things. And so, that's a bit of the game. It's leaving the monastic life then, as well, is another. We cross the threshold of what's going on in other people's lives, because it's like the proverbial crossroads in your life, right? Everybody comes to the point where you're at a crossroads, you have to make a decision this or that way. especially if you're stuck in a job or a relationship or whatever have you. You know, do I stick it out? Do I stay in this job forever? Do I take a chance and I go this way? Do I stay with this person forever, or do I choose to leave and honor myself, honor my wishes, and go another direction? So, you know, a lot of people are interested. Where do you get the strength to make that change, and how do you do it? So I think this is why this topic is so interesting to many people. And so I figured I'd share the lessons that I've learned, and because they're really the highest lessons of life and applicable in many different scenarios. Melody's joined, Robert's joined, and Angela has joined. Hello to all of you. All right, so getting into it. You know, I was a monk for 10 years. It was an Eastern organization, Yogic Order. It was the ancient Swami order, the Giri branch, which means the mountain branch of the ancient Swami order. This particular order was founded by Paramahansa Yogananda, an Indian monk, an Indian Swami who came from India in 1920 to the United States, and really was one of the first, in fact, probably the second East Indian to come to America and really start to disseminate Eastern teachings in this land. And you know, today, 2018, we see it everywhere. You see T-shirts with Ganesh and Shiva, and you know, Namaste. We have yoga centers all over the world. And all over the United States. We've got, you know, the prayer beads and all that. Meditation has come into vogue. All of this happened because of, largely because of Yogananda way back in the day. So he started this order, and I joined on basically in 1996. Yep, I joined in 1996, went all the way to 2006. And so as a monk, you know, one of the things in the lifestyle, and by the way, you're more than welcome to ask questions and stuff as well. I want to say if there's any particular thoughts you have or clarifications you want. But as a monk, we took 4 vows, and those vows were basically loyalty, obedience, simplicity, and chastity. Loyalty, obedience, simplicity, and chastity. And now I bring that up because this is really the focus of what I want to talk about, because these vows continue to shape the way that I deal with life even today. Now I've left the order, right? So I've left the formal relationship where these vows, you know, I vowed to uphold these principles of loyalty, obedience, simplicity, and chastity. But it's life, you know, I like to say life is a holographic experience, meaning anything that we experience in one part of life has relevance and meaning to the larger context of life. And anything that happens there has has relevance in the even larger context. Or something in the larger context can be brought down to a specific situation and have relevance there. So this is one of the how I operate. Somebody's liking that, so good. You know, give me hearts, give me likes if you're feeling good about that. There's always one little mad face that shows up. I love to talk to you about that. All right. So, you know, how it went for me was I started getting, you know, I was in the order for 9.5 years. I started getting signals in my meditation that it was time to move on. It was time to leave. And now this has happened to me before with no big deal, but you usually meditate deeper, redouble your efforts and your studies and all that, and it usually passes. But this time it wasn't passing. And this inner calling, I'll call it, to leave, to venture back out in the world was constantly in my consciousness. So now I just so happened to work for the department that we call it monks personnel. It was the department that basically was in charge of monks coming in charge of monks leaving, and in charge of the lifestyle of the monks, the day-to-day rules and regulations and all that. And one of the laments of the superior there was that people usually came to him, people who wanted to leave usually came with their minds already made up. Or worse yet, people, you'd wake up one morning and Joe would be gone. His room would be empty and he was nowhere in sight. Poof, just vanished. And I realized that, all these were just signs of somebody still running from something that wasn't right inside them. And so I didn't want to be somebody who was running away from something. I wanted to be somebody who was running to something. Let me see, I just got meditating at Yogananda's Lake Shrine in a few hours. Beautiful, Randy. So where I was a monk was in Los Angeles, and there's a Lake Shrine property. There's the headquarters up in Mount Washington. There's a Hollywood property. What would you say the large content of life? What is the larger context of life? Ross, I mean, it's the larger context is our evolution. The largest context why we're here is to evolve, to become better, to ultimately embody our highest potential, to self-actualize, as Maslow would say, psychologist, to become self-realized, as Yogananda would say, and many spiritual paths would say. So that's the larger context I'm talking about. So back to this. I started getting the signals to leave. So I wanted to do this consciously. So I began to employ help. I enlisted, we all had a counselor, so I enlisted the help of my counselor. I went to the monks personnel, the head of monks personnel, and said, hey, I'm getting these feelings. I don't want to be somebody who just up and leaves. Help me with this decision. And so we started to consciously seek out. And it was a process of really looking at, what was the motivation here? What was really going on? And could something else help in that? Did leaving have to be the answer? So for instance, we looked at, could I change my work assignment? I said I was working with monks personnel. I was also working in the center department, helping all the centers around the world to comply with our ways of doing things. Work assignment didn't really seem to be the issue. Did I need a change of environment? I mentioned we have a number of different ashrams around. Maybe changing to a different environment could help me. And in looking at that would have been nice, but didn't really address the root of the problem. Maybe something like just getting a dog, something that, something to give me more attention and more sense of immediate purpose. I was living my bigger purpose of meditating and serving and helping the world in that way, but sometimes we need a more immediate connection. But that wasn't it either, really. So around that time, I got introduced to breath work, to the technique of conscious breathing. That was a little different than the meditation practices that I had. And I do have to admit that I snuck away. I snuck away on retreat. I was, we have week retreats at a time. So I snuck away to a breathwork retreat where I discovered, for the first time, the breath really helped me open up to the emotional dimension of my being. As much as the monastic life really is on a high plane of being, developing ourselves spiritually, what I noticed there was that a lot of people were still emotionally broken, for lack of a better term. Not everybody, but a good amount of people hadn't fully dealt with their emotional baggage. And I really believe nowadays that meditation, if you're really strong, you can power through, and that can get you to the other side. But I think meditation really assumes that you've done this this foundational emotional work first. So you do that foundational work, and then your meditation can really take off. If you haven't done it, then you got to spend a lot of time in meditation, dwelling in this crap, basically, until you finally can transcend it. But breathwork really helped me open up to this emotional dimension. Gave me acknowledgement that I had these emotions, gave me a way to express the emotions, and ultimately gave me a way to integrate this emotional energy, to learn how to deal with it in a productive way. We have a lot in common. What's that? All right, Karen's saying, I too was a monk in an ashram for 10 years. I swear to God, no lie. I mean, many people, wow. So Karen, Facebook friend me afterwards, and let's continue the conversation. Were there consequences for you leaving the order, like there was for me leaving the Jehovah's Witnesses that I've been born and raised into? And he says, yes, there's always consequences. Every decision requires us to make sacrifices, as well as, moving onward, moving towards what we're making that decision for. Now, from what I understand, I've met a few Jehovah's Witnesses, and they're hardcore. When you leave, you're excommunicated, you're cut off from your family, all that. In a way, I would say it wasn't as hardcore, but generally it was similar. Though I returned to my family, I more or less stopped communicating and stopped being in communication with the monastic family that I had. So there's still a vibe of, a little bit, and I could understand this, that, a monk that's left, if he continues to communicate with those that are still on the inside, that maybe he influences them to leave too. And that's like the scariest thing to the organization is exodus, a mass exodus of monks. So yes, there were consequences. Excuse me. Hi. Karen did friend me, perfect. Our breath. Karen, send me a message too, just to remind me, so we can pick up the thread. Our breath is healing in all aspects. I love that you're talking about this. Perfect, Danae. And Victoria's here. Hi, Victoria, another breath worker from California. So welcome. So yeah, the breath really helped me to get in touch. And I have a book. I don't have it here because I just gave the copy away. Align, Expand, and Succeed, which is about consciousness in business. But the chapter that I wrote in that book really revolves around the story of me leaving, because why this is significant is because I used the breath work in a modified sort of way to help me make decisions in my life, make this particular decision especially. We're at this major crossroads. Do I stay in this lifestyle that I've been in for 10 years, that I've dedicated my life to? It's like being married. You plan to stay in it for the rest of your life, right? Or do I choose to leave, to leave what I've committed to leave my job without knowing what else I'm going to be doing, to leave my hometown without knowing where I'm going? This was the big question that I had. And as I employed this technique of breathing, it became apparent to me. It got me in touch with what I call my soul's authentic resonance. I was in tune with what I truly needed. And that answer came to me as leave the order. And when so I got the idea, but I still hadn't vocalized it. And this was a big lesson to me in and of itself. So I was talking on the phone with the head of Monk's personnel, and he was coaching me a little bit, and and I said, I feel like I got an answer. And he said, well, what is your answer? And I took a deep breath because I didn't want to say it, but I said, I feel like I have to leave. And then he confirmed back. He said, then you have to leave. Then it's your dharma to leave. Dharma meaning your spiritual duty, your highest calling. And I can't tell you, this is the first time in my life where I really had that feeling, that expression that a weight was lifted off your shoulders. You know, it just felt like that this weight was fully just lifted off my shoulders. And I was so light that I essentially skipped to the phone booth. We still worked with landline phones back then. And, I called my mother, I think. I called a couple friends, let them know. But I just had this lightness about me, all this heavy weight, this burden of this decision that finally just lifted. And that was a remarkable thing in of itself. So leaving now, the transition really gets into what were the lessons that I learned. What are the lessons that I learned on the inside that I continue to take with me out here in life, and out here in life in the cold, cruel world, as we say, or the big blue marble, or the outside world. And the first one is really use that breath. Use your breath to get in touch with your authentic core resonance. What is it that's right for you? And as you breathe, and you think on your options, if the option feels expansive, if it feels open, then that's a sign that it's right for you. If it feels contractive, if it feels like stuck, if it feels hard, then that's an indication that option isn't right for you. And even though I'd been a monk for 10 years, when I breathed on that option, staying, I just felt this constriction. When I breathed on the option of leaving, I felt expansive and open. And like I said, I made that decision with a lot of forethought. And when I did make it, and here I am 12 years later, I can honestly say that I've never looked back and regretted the decision, because really I took the time to tune in with what was right at my core. So now, coming back into life, how did I use these vows? As I mentioned, loyalty. Loyalty is, this is a vow for life. It's like whether you're in a monastic order, whether you're in a job, whether you're in a marriage or a relationship, loyalty is key. And though one of the things that I was really struggling with early on was, how do I keep my calm, even-minded nature that I developed in these 10 years in the ashram? Inside the walls, I really I really let go, and I really trusted, and I really surrendered. And as a result, a lot of stress and anxiety just more or less left me. I was able to stay even-minded. I was able to stay calm and peaceful. And I really dwelt on how what was the key ingredient there. And what I realized was that it was faith. Faith that everything would be all right. And I looked back in my life, I looked at my monastic life, and everything had been all right there. Of course, there had been challenges and ups and downs, but I made it through, right? I looked at my life before the monastic life. What had happened there? Yeah, there had been challenges and ups and downs, maybe even bigger swings, but I'd made it through. I always made it through. I'd always had the guidance, the assistance of some force to help me make it through. And as long as I had that faith, I could stay calm about it. As soon as I lost that faith, then I'd start getting anxious and tense. And I used to be a really an anxious kind of person, before becoming a monk. And then some of that was coming back when I left. And so this is where I took some time to dwell on this and feel like, yeah. So it is this faith that all will continue to evolve for my highest good. And I would say that that's exactly the same for all of you. That the universe, however, Mother Ayahuasca is looking out for your best interests. And the lessons, sometimes we have to learn lessons and go through challenges to help us evolve more. Sometimes life is just smooth sailing and we get to enjoy it, but have faith that you're going to make it on through. Could the ayahuasca have helped you figuring out what you said, the Dharma thing? Andre, possibly. I think that's a lot of why people come here. They're looking for those answers, and the ayahuasca helps you as well get in touch with that core resonance. And what I love about the program here is that we've got breath work and plant medicine together. So you can get it in either of those facets of the program, and then you can confirm it with the other facet. So hopefully that helps. Hi there from Australia. And it's about 5:30. That's all right, Crystal. Everything is going to be all right. That's it. Great, Andy. So that's it. The other thing that I really wanted to say is, what are you loyalty? What are you being loyal to? And I think the ultimate, of course, we are being loyal to God and the guru as a representative of God in the ashram, but our God is ultimately our higher self. So you are, and I'm speaking philosophy here, so you may or may not agree with this, but if you consider that we're all one, and then you are part of the whole, and if God is everything, then God is you are God, and or you are the universal energy. You are that life force of intelligence. And so what you're really being loyal to is your higher self, that higher aspect of you. And I learned that there's a such thing as obviously universal truth, but there's a such thing as relative truth. And relative truth may or may not be in alignment always with the universal truth. And it's a tricky, paradoxical kind of thing. But you have to be okay with that. You have to, in loyalty to your higher self, sometimes your higher self is taking you on a path that seemingly, let's put it this way, relative truth may sometimes seem like it's not in alignment with the higher truth, but it's always serving the higher truth in the end. But that relative truth doesn't mean that everybody takes this straight line, and that, if that's the truth, that everybody has to abide by it. People abide by it by swinging this way, and then others abide by it by swinging that way. But by and large, we all come back into that truth. And I realized that the universal truth that I was really focused on was this truth of evolution, that life is this evolutionary experience, and that our whole purpose is to become self-realized, self-actualized. And that the monastic environment was one of the best around for that endeavor. And we got plenty of time to meditate, plenty of time to serve, plenty of time to struggle and win against our darker habits and inclinations. But it's not the only place. And in fact, as we look at it, 99.9% of the world is not in a monastic order, right? We're learning the lessons right here in the field of life. This is the school. This is the playground. This is the place where life lessons happen. And so, sometimes, we obviously have free will, so we can choose a path that's not that great for us. But even in choosing that, we eventually get pushed back into what's better for us. So the whole idea here is that accepting that your relative truth may sometimes not look like it's in alignment with the higher truth, but if you're feeling it, if that's the path you're being called to trust it. And that's what I've done, and that's what I continue to do, continue to strive to do anyway as we work. My coming to Rythmia was another one of these big choice points, big crossroads. My own personal business, my own as a coach, as a breathwork expert and a speaker, an author, was really taking off when Rythmia came into my life and said, hey, do you want to work here? And it was a little bit of a step down on some levels in the pay grade and things like that. But, in really tuning in, it resonated. It was a big yes, take it. And so I went, and, my life, my less than a year here so far has been beyond memorable and beyond all the benefits that have come out of being here that weren't foreseen when I had to make that black and white decision. So this is what I'm saying. Get in touch, get in tune with you and whatever your truth is in that moment. And be fearless, be courageous enough to step into that. Crystal, love that. Our God is out heart. Whoops. Our God is probably our heart itself. Yeah. It makes so much sense that to be some dude. Yeah, I get you there, Crystal. All right. So those are on the loyalty things. So staying loyal to your higher self. The obedience is an interesting vow because that's probably one that in the West we have a lot of struggle with, because obedience, a lot of us think of like a dog being obedient, right? It's like being subservient, having somebody's your master and you're essentially the slave. You're obedient in the form of compliance and all that. But the deeper meaning of obedience is really a discipline. To be, again, what are you being obedient to? And what we were ultimately being obedient to was a higher path, a path of life, a lifestyle that was meant to evolve us out of our darkness and become more of the light beings that we are, which is, again, something that we work on here at Rythmia. Opening you up to becoming your light worker self, your light warrior self. And so, to be obedient means to be disciplined, to stay on path and stay on target. So I've really realized from that monastic experience the power of a positive routine. And routine means like a daily practice or a daily set of practices. As a monk, we went through the process, get up at 5:30, meditate for an hour, go out, meditate with a group for an hour. So it was personal meditation, then group meditation. Then we went to breakfast. Then we have a study period. Then we went to our service-oriented position. Lunchtime, we stopped for 30 minutes to meditate. Then we had lunch. All meals were in silence so we could reflect on the greater gratitude for what we had. Go back to doing service. We'd have recreation mandatory every day for an hour and a half. Get your body in gear, sweat. Then in the evening, we might have a class. Then we'd have a group meditation for an hour. Then before bed, we'd have individual meditation for an hour. Rinse and repeat, right? We'd do that day after day, essentially, with some variations. Sundays, we'd have a long 6-hour meditation. Actually, was it 6 or 8 hours? A 6-hour meditation on Sundays, yeah. So this was a routine that developed this muscle of discipline and developed these habits that keep your consciousness aligned with your higher self and your higher way of being, rather than to align yourself with your lower self or your egoistic being. And I dare say that the world at large is designed to cater to your ego being. Just look at billboard advertisements. It's about desire. It's about what you want. It's about sense gratification. So it's really not about you helping liberate yourself. It's about really keeping yourself in bondage. This is, the world at large, the signals that we're getting from the world at large. So I learned how to stay on a positive routine and how a positive routine is so important for The other aspect of obedience is really respect. You know, when you're obedient to something, you're really more or less respectful. And I see that that respect is in a lot of ways for social conventions. But what I mean by that is whenever you're in a group, there are conventions, whether they're acknowledged or not, whether they are spoken or unspoken, whether they're conscious or unconscious. There's these conventions, and if you're not aware of them, you may not respect those conventions, and that's where problems get into, where we get into problems. Just look at, I'll dare say, I'll get into politics in a moment, but just look at our current president. When he goes to a foreign land and he, you know, with this American bravado, we understand that in America. We know that that's, you know, we do things by being bold and being brash, but you know, let's just take like Japan, a country where there's a protocol to what we say, a discipline to the way that you relate to people and a respect that you follow. And if that's not followed, then it can lead to problems. And I dare say, you know, I hope it doesn't lead to World War III. So these social conventions, having respect for that is, and recognizing, going into any social situation and pulling out what is the convention here, even though it may be unspoken, even though nobody's realizes it on a conscious level. What is going on here, and how can I best fit into this process without you know, compromising my own values and ideals? And if that social group is compromising those, then I always have the choice point to remove myself from that. But how do I contribute to that, and how do I maintain the harmony there? You know, this respect really is respect for others. Learning, you know, learning obedience was really learning how to respect others. I said in the these social conventions, but really just on a one-on-one level too. Respecting a person, getting where they're at, what do they feel they need to feel respected, and understanding ultimately that we have a concept in the Eastern philosophies. Of course, you have the guru. The guru is your teacher, your higher guide. But we have what's called upa-gurus. Upa meaning little gurus. So anybody and anything in your life could be an upa-guru, and essentially is. That person that cuts you off on the highway is an upa-guru, to teach you self-control and not to let your anger just flare. You know, that person in the checkout line who keeps fumbling for their change and then decides to pay with a card and then decides to, no, write a check instead, you know, is your upa-guru, teaching you how to cultivate deeper patience. You know, so again, the lesson here is in the obedience is discipline and respect for the fact that all of life is designed to help us evolve and help us to get out of our lower nature and reach our higher nature. And so to respect the vehicles which those lessons come, and those are largely other people. Let's see, those are hard. Man. All right, Tom, good topic. Let's see here. Having a long stay in an ashram myself, beautiful. It's opening up new vistas from the past, finding wisdom, beautiful. Jamie Brown, thanks for sharing. Thank you for being on, Jamie. My good friend from the past. What kind of service is it? The service that I would do, the service as a monk, we would, here, I'll say this. I mean, we served our greater organization. Basically, our service was to disseminate the teachings of the wisdom of the Vedas, the ancient teachings of India, and for the evolution of mankind. Now, service in general, service, the big SERVICE, is not so much of a doing as a shift in attitude. So you can serve even where you are right now. If you are a dishwasher, you can serve by not washing those dishes just to get your paycheck so you can go out and drink beer, but wash those dishes because you want others to have the cleanest environment to eat in when they visit that restaurant. You want people to have the top-notch experience. You're serving others in that moment. The basic difference is, are you motivated by self-gain? Or are you motivated in the opportunity to help others? And you don't even have to change what you're doing. You can be an investment banker, and you can be very me-oriented, and there's lots of investment bankers out there that are like that, and so they'll take your money so that they can gain the most out of it. And then there's investment bankers that are more service-oriented, that are like, yes, I'll earn a commission from helping you, but I'm really trying to get you financially stable and have a financial future that you're comfortable with. All right, so hopefully that's clear on what I mean by service. The next vow, the next lesson was really simplicity, right? And simplicity was a great vow because Yogananda stressed simplicity over other orders had the vow poverty. And Yogananda didn't like that poverty, that where we live in an abundant universe. Look around you everywhere, especially here in Costa Rica. Just abundant greenery, abundant water, fresh water. You know, I was just in the city, and they get water out of the springs. The tap water is better than any tap water I've ever drank in America, hands down. So, you know, we live in this abundant universe, and so there's no reason to impoverish ourselves, to deny ourselves the abundance of life. However, the ideal of simplicity was to be content with what you have. So even though there's abundance all around you, maybe you don't actually have it on your plate in this very instant. Maybe, you know, there's a bakery with 3 dozen muffins, but you get 1 muffin, and it's like, you know, can you be content with 1 while your eyes are on those 3 dozen others? So I really learned in this lifestyle. We lived a very basic life. Basically, our housing situation was a cross between a dormitory and a hotel. You know, a room with a twin bed, a single person bed, a space to meditate, a closet, maybe a desk, and then a shared bathroom and shared shower. Our work was all in cubicles. We had computers and things like that, but they were pretty ancient, you know, at least 5 to 10 years behind the times. And so it's like dinosaur years to computers. But, you know, we learned to live simply. We learned to appreciate what we had in the moment. And if there was an opportunity, a big donation came in for renewal of computer equipment, all right, and we got upgraded computers. Or, you know, sometimes we ate pretty simply, but devotees from around the world would send in treats and things like that, and then they'd put them out for us, and lo and behold, we're flush for the week. We ate nuts and dates and sweetmeats and things like that. You know, and we would enjoy it in the spirit of simplicity, that while we had it, it was there for us to enjoy. And if it was gone, we weren't depressed about it not being there. We were happy with whatever we had instead. So I can't tell you how much this has helped me in life, in the outside world, because, I mean, again, I mentioned advertising earlier. It's just spurring us on to keep up with the Joneses. And it's like you look at your neighbor and he's got a BMW and you don't. So you got to go out and get that BMW. You've second mortgaged your house, or you worked overtime, or you've put extra money on that credit card. Now you've got all this anxiety and stress about how you're going to pay all that off. But but that's not enough, because now you see that your other neighbor just put in a swimming pool. And now you get a so you're continuing to make your life more and more complex, and it's eating away at your nerves. It's destroying your nervous system until you have a nervous breakdown or end up going bankrupt. So simplicity has really served me well, to be able to walk down the street and enjoy life because there's flowers around, or just to say, here we live by the beach. The beach, people don't have a lot of means here at Costa Rica, but you look at them and by and large they're smiling from ear to ear because they got the necessities. They got warmth, they got shelter, they've got some clothes, they've got a beautiful environment, the beach that feeds them, a beach that entertains them. And so this is the spirit that simplicity is all about. And then finally, the one that was the third question people asked the most about, the celibacy, right? So I say now that I'm out in the real world, do I celibate or do I celebrate? And it's a good question. Here at Rythmia, interestingly enough, Jerry Powell, the CEO, was joking the other day. He was telling a few people, I told Christian to come on down. This place is beautiful, lavish, and all sorts of things going on. And I get down here, and I haven't been, since I've been a monk, I haven't been in an environment that has been so monk-like. And I say that as a joke, and I say that kind of seriously, because here at Rythmia we live a very simple life where it's very disciplined life. I live on campus day in, day out. I'm from the moment I go to breakfast till the moment I shut my door at night with the guests. I'm on, I'm serving, I'm helping people through their stuff. Obviously in any high level service operation, especially one where you're dealing with people's traumas and helping people get clarity in their life and their negativity and all that, you don't engage those who are working and serving as teachers and guides, don't engage on a lower base level with people who are coming to you for help. So so in a way, that whole celibacy thing still applies to a certain degree. Now, of course, there's other realms to try my hand at, so to speak, but I'm here 24/7, so I barely get out into town. But the question here is not so much what's going on in my life, but really how do we apply this principle? And the whole idea behind celibacy is to recognize that there's basic physiological functions that serve us, that serve a purpose in our lives, but also are like a two-edged sword. They have a life of their own. And the sexual impulse is one of those things that serves a great purpose for keeping the species alive, keeping the human population thriving. But in and of itself, if sex is done for the sake of sex, it can be a negative rabbit hole that just sucks you in and sucks all of your energy in and distracts you from your higher ideals. And so the idea here is that sex isn't bad. It's not a sin. It's not something that we have to beat ourselves up about, but to realize we're making choices all the time. And I'll just give you the philosophical viewpoint from the path that I was a monk for 10 years, is that, you may have heard of chakras. Our chakras are our energy centers in our body, from our crown to our base, right there, our perineum, they say, right between the genitals and anus. That's the first chakra, all the way up to the seventh chakra. Now, each of those chakras, as you go, our liberation is the act of moving our energy up the spine until we finally reach the highest point. Each chakra has a more refined energy. As a result, It's got a more refined blissfulness to it. So where does sex lie? Sex is an expression of the second chakra. Still one of the 7 chakras, one of the holy energy centers, still a valid point of expression and a place of experiencing bliss. But the wise ones indicate or tell us that that's just the second level of this. If you get stuck there, yes, you can experience the bliss and the wonders of that chakra expression. But if you discipline yourself to not get stuck there and continue to move your energy up the spine, the 3rd chakra, the 4th chakra, which is the heart center, the 5th, the 6th, the spiritual eye, opening of your awareness, and ultimately liberation. Each one of those becomes more and more refined, so that the bliss that you experience when you are in communion in one of those chakras is infinitely more powerful and potent than the sexual chakra. That being said, once again, that first one there is pretty blissful in and of itself, and so a lot of us end up spending a lot of time there. It's a choice, not a choice to consider yourself a sinner or to flagellate yourself or whatever, but to realize what do you want? Do you want to stay there on that level, or do you want to explore the different levels as well? Let's see if there's any. Didn't get any comments on that one. I thought I might. So, really, this is helping us learn to develop willpower, to develop power over our impulses. Our impulses are not necessarily the best thing for us. We can have an impulse, but then our intelligence, our higher intelligence, should be discerning and say, is this impulse in my best interest or is it not? Sometimes it is. Sometimes that impulse comes on because it's the best expression of love in that moment. Or maybe you want to make a new human. Then it's obviously the best thing to do. But if that impulse, your higher intelligence is saying no, it's your lower nature trying to keep you in that lower nature, then maybe a different choice. You might want to make a different choice. And I'm not telling you which choice to make. I'm not telling you that one choice is better than the other. But I will say that the choice that serves your evolution, to me, is always your best choice. And it gets back to that whole idea of, as we use the breath, and when you're weighing your choices, if you feel expansive in that choice, then it's a sense that you're on the right track. If you feel contracted, if you feel shut down when you're considering that choice, then you might consider that choice is not in your highest interest. Always explore the more. Thanks, Toby. All right, so that really wraps up today's talk. We're coming up on the hour again. This is, why I left the ashram, and then not only why, but the hows of that life applying into this life. And what's great, hopefully what you get out of what I've shared with you, is that you don't have to spend 10 years in a monastic ashram yourself. That you in essence are in an ashram. If they, the philosophy that I was a monk in for 10 years recognize that there's different ashramas, different phases of life. And one of those is to be out in the world as a householder, working your path. And that's the whole thing, is don't just unconsciously find yourself drifting in life, but be conscious about the things you do and apply some of these principles. Loyalty to your higher self, first and foremost. So whenever you have a choice, the choice is usually between your higher self and your lower self, or one choice is going to be more in resonance with your higher self. Be loyal to that. Obedience, be respectful, and be disciplined in your day-to-day approach. You know already some things that are in your best interest. Be obedient to those. Be disciplined. Simplicity. have when you have, but don't be disappointed when you don't have, and find and appreciate those things that you have, even if others have more. And then ultimately that celibacy, just the idea of getting back to that choice point. What is it what's in your highest interest in this moment, and is that going, and whatever your choices are, is that going to serve you for the long term? Usually short-term happiness, feels really good, but then has a consequence. This is the nature of addiction. We're addicted to sex, drugs, addicted to TV, whatever. These things give us a high for a moment, but then they often leave us feeling not so great afterwards. And if that's your pattern, then you know that particular thing isn't as good for you as it feels like it is in that moment. So with that, all of a sudden I got a bunch of things opened up. Thank you for sharing. Love your lessons. You're an awesome teacher. Oh, thanks, Sean. Thank you so much. Very expanding. Celine, thank you for that. Thank you, Randy, too. Karen, correct. Discipline yourself. Agree completely. Sometimes living in the ashram is easy because it's the lifestyle is built into the schedule. Just do the schedule. Exactly, Karen. That's one of the things I found was a liability, was that the ashram, it was easy to just do what you were told and you weren't doing it with your own willpower. It's more challenging to do it on your own without that structure. Indeed, I agree. It's the highest path, really. There's the mundane life, then there's the monastic life, could be considered a higher path, but the highest path is to return to that worldly life and maintain your spiritual principles that you practiced in that monastic life. So you're in the battlefield of life, yet maintaining those higher principles. That's all of us right now. So householder yoga, one of the toughest paths. Exactly, Toby. And I'll be celibate for 8.5 years. I feel it's allowed me to cultivate self-love. Namaste, beautiful Brent. And that's one of the greatest reasons for being celibate. Bob Walker here, sending you great love and peace. Thanks. Brian and Jeanette, looks like you guys just joined, and hopefully you can see the replay. Thank you all for joining on. R. Christian Minson here at Rythmia Life Advancement Center, coming to you live. I'll see you next week. Namaste.